Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the very first Parklife Sport Football League podcast show. I'm your host, Bill Ledbury, and joining me is Tom Mason and Lewis Harbon. How are we, guys?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. Just for our listeners, taking us through today, we're going to be previewing Arsenal versus Chelsea, Stoke versus Leeds, Forest versus Bristol City, Luton versus Peterborough, Lincoln versus Grimsby, and the two local angles. We've got Forest Green versus Bury, and Cheltenham's a long trip up to Carlisle United. Starting off with Arsenal v Chelsea. Tom, what can we expect from this game?
I think you can see quite an attacking game between two sides. Haven't necessarily got great defensive options, but both, particularly Arsenal going forward, Aubameyang, Lacazette, where they both start. Ozil already come back in contention. Chelsea have lacked a bit going forward lately, but yeah, I think you expect to see goals and an exciting game tomorrow night. Definitely. And Lewis?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a bigger game for Arsenal. They're 6 points off Chelsea. They really need to start making inroads into the Champions League places, especially with United at home tomorrow against Brighton. You expect them to win that. So
definitely.
Arsenal definitely playing catch up at the minute. So I think Emery will be targeting that game to catch up on the top four.
The last time I watched Arsenal was against their match against West Ham. And I think Emery got it completely wrong. I think he played like a 3-4-3 formation. Alex Iwobi, Lacazette, as well as Aubameyang in the front three. But the defence looked shaky. What do you reckon Arsenal need to do this January window? Could they be looking at a new signing defensively, or would they be looking for more goals?
Yeah, I think so. I think Shelney's come back from a long-term injury. He's not really been on it as such, and they're playing a back three with like Rob Holding in there, and it's not really adding much to it, and there's just so many gaps in that defence. But when Emery came in, everyone thought, the old Arsenal's gone. We've got a bit more defensively, but it's looking like the old Arsenal again.
I admire his attempts to play more attacking football, and there have been times this season where they've looked really good going forward. But sometimes when you come up against these more like sort of robust teams like the West Hams, like the Leicesters and stuff, you sort of see that they come unstuck a little bit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think they've got on the break and stuff, they're all right because they've got a lot of pace in that team with Iwobi and Aubameyang and Lacazette. But when they're having to break teams down, they're just stuck. And the same happened against West Ham. They just looked really poor in the second half. Didn't create a lot. But yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely. Tom, we're right in the middle now of the January transfer window. What do you think Arsenal need to look for in this window?
I think it's got to be defensive options. They've been struggling with injuries quite a bit lately. Obviously, Koscielny's come back. Monreal's been out. Kolasinac's been out. Quite a lot of players have been out. So even with the players back to full fitness, like of Mustafi, they've got Rod Holding out at the moment for the season. So yeah, they've got to be looking at centre backs for me, and maybe even a fullback or to even a keeper maybe, because obviously Petr Cech, because Leno's not been the greatest in recent times. Absolutely.
And looking at the league table, you've got Chelsea, who are in fourth position on 47 points, and then Arsenal in fifth on 41 points. If Chelsea can win this game, it'll be a massive gap then for Arsenal. Yeah, it'd be massive. It'd be hard to see Arsenal really getting close to catching them, because 9-point gap and Arsenal looking a bit shaky. I think, it'd be massive for Chelsea. Obviously, they're both still in the Europa League, but if Arsenal result doesn't go way of Arsenal tomorrow, they're going to have to attack the Europa League and try and get back in the Champions League, which is what their fans want. Absolutely. And top of the headlines at the moment is Higuain. So what are your thoughts about that? They've agreed a deal for a loan move. How important can Higuain be? Because obviously they've had players like Morata at the club who hasn't been exactly prolific, let's put it that way. What did you think Higuain can bring to this Chelsea team?
I think he can bring goals to the team. He can bring a better style of play. Morata's struggled in front of goal, and Chelsea are a team that obviously create a lot of chances. So having someone like Higuain in the team can have a massive impact, and they can expect to win more games and be more comfortable in games. And he's good holding the ball up and stuff. So I can see him being a good signing.
That's it, isn't it? Well, you've got Liverpool and Man City. It's a bit of a two-horse race, isn't it, for the title? Whereas, would you say now it's more just sort of cementing that Champions League spot for Maurizio Sarri? Yeah,
it's got to be. Yeah, although they can get there through the Europa League, they'd rather do it through the league. Obviously, United have come back lately with some good wins. So, but Chelsea have got to be looking to get the top four. Maybe with Tottenham's problems as well, with Harry Kane and Heung-min Son out. They've got to be looking at getting top four, maybe even third place.
Absolutely. We'll now finish off that Chelsea versus Arsenal now with our score predictions. So we'll start off with Lewis.
It's hard to call this one. Go either way. But I think it's going to be edged one goal. I'll go 2-1 to Chelsea.
2-1 to Chelsea. Tom?
I'm going for a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. I think it'll be 1-0 Chelsea. I think it'll be a tight game, but I think Chelsea will come out on top just. Okay, moving on now to the Championship. We've got the big fixture between Stoke and Leeds. Leeds obviously have been in the headlines a lot recently with the whole Spygate situation with Marcelo Bielsa. Tom, what have you made of all this?
It's been quite funny, really. Watching this go on. Obviously, he came out last week in his full game against Derby and basically admitted it. And then Frank Lampard obviously wasn't very happy about that. And then during the week, he's had called up another snap press conference and shown the journalists about how he does it for every single game, 4 hours, and it's good management, but it's not in the spirit of the game, and you wouldn't see many people doing it. So like, obviously other managers like Pochettino and stuff said they've seen it in the past, but I don't agree with it. But I think you can't really punish him too hard because it's not breaking the rules at the end of the day.
Definitely. Lewis, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the whole situation.
Well, I think that at the start it looked really bad, but the more and more he's explained it, like the more respect you have away, because he's just worked so hard and he's a genius in what he does, because he just is the analysis he goes through. I think ahead of this Stoke game, obviously they've got a new manager in Nathan Jones, and he's already come out and said that he's watched every Luton game already this season, and it's like, so he puts in so much effort and he just does anything to win. And I obviously sportsmanship, it isn't a good thing, but he does anything to win, and
Absolutely.
he's a winner, and that's what Leeds need.
Well, you kind of, like you said, you have to sort of admire him, because you can't, there's no doubt in what he's achieved so far in such a short space of time. They're 4 points clear at the top of the division, but they don't look like they're slipping up at any point, do they?
No. Out of the inconsistency of the league, they're winning games, and they keep going, and I think they're probably the only shoe-in to go up at the minute.
I agree. I think they've been excellent all season, but it is interesting because it's now a bit of a spanner in the works, because how do people view this? Because you can look at it on two sides. You can say he's an absolute genius and what he's done should be respected, but then you think morally, what has football come to? The fact that you have to start spying and start breaking and entering into teams' grounds and training pitches. Very interesting. As for Stoke, they've just announced their new manager. Tom, what do you think this could sort of bring new life now to Stoke?
Yeah, I think obviously he's done quite well at Luton there, and they're top of the table in League One. But yeah, he looks like he's going to play quite an attacking brand of football. They lost in the Cup during the week, having been 2-0 up, so that's a bit of a worry. But going to play against Leeds is never going to be easy, particularly with what's been happening lately. So yeah, I think Stoke are in for a tough afternoon, and will do well to get something out of the game.
I think the good thing about Stoke is, look at their last managers they've had, like Rowett, Mark Hughes, Paul Lambert, Pulis. They've really gone for the old guard of tried and tested, and it's not worked. So I think they've gone for a new outlet on it and getting Nathan Jones in, and I think he'll be looking just to consolidate this season and kick on next year. It's
sort of similar though, because this whole thing happened with Sunderland last year. Yeah. Now I know the situation's not as bad because Stoke are in 15th and they're only about 11 or 12 points off the playoffs or so, but it's a sort of similar tale, isn't it? So Sunderland went down, they brought in loads of new players, the manager got sacked, then got a new manager, they eventually got relegated. It's a sort of not quite as bad, but I think with Stoke they really need to start playing good football now and getting results, because otherwise they're just going to be in this division. The last thing they want is to stay in this league, so they're about 10 points off. What do you think going forward?
I think the problem with Stoke is they've spent so much money. I think you look at Benikofoba, they brought in Ryan Woods, James McLean, and then they've got the high wages of people still like Shawcross are there, Jack Butland, Ashley Williams. So for me, they have to, either next season they have to go up, or else they could potentially lose a lot of players and a lot of money, because the parachute payments won't pay that. So yeah, they've got a bit of an urgency about them because they've got to do something, but they need to be looking to the long term more because of how they've been in recent times and how much they've fell.
Do you feel that they should probably continue with their gung-ho approach with the players? Because like you said, they've spent a lot of money, and do they just go for it? Because they're so in deep now with the amount of players, the amount of money they spent. Do they just go for it and hope for the best? Or do they need to start going, right, players like Ashley Williams, Jack Butland, get them off the wage bill, and then maybe look at sort of Nathan Jones, maybe he could start his philosophy or something. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's more at the end of the season. I think for this year they put all their eggs in one basket and tried to keep the players they'd got and just give it a go. And it's not worked out. But I think at the end of the season, it wouldn't be a surprise to see a lot of them big players go.
Okay, Tom, we'll move on to you now for the score predictions for this one. What are you going to go for?
I think it's hard to look past Leeds, especially on the road. I think Leeds will win this one 3-1.
Fair enough, Lewis.
I think Stoke will get a bit of a bounce for the new manager, but Leeds are just, especially with the week they've had, I think the momentum's building. I think I'll go 3-1 to Leeds.
3-1 Leeds as well. I'm going to go 2-0 Leeds. The next game that we're going to be looking at then is Nottingham Forest versus Bristol City. Now, Bristol City are flying high in the Championship at the moment. They are 7th in the division. They've now 10 games unbeaten. As for Forest, they've got their new manager, Martin O'Neill. Tom, what do you make of this game?
Yeah, I think it'd be quite a tough one to call because both, obviously, Forest got a chance of getting a new manager bounce, and Bristol City, like you said, have been flying. They haven't lost, I think, since like 24th of November. So they've been on a real roll. So Bristol City will probably come in as favourites, but yeah, I think it'd be a tough game for both sides.
There's not a lot in it, is there? Because we say Bristol City are flying high. Well, Nottingham Forest aren't too far behind. They're only 2 places below them, just 2 points separating the two sides. So, Lewis, what do you think?
Yeah, really tight and tough one to call. I think it all depends on how Forest, their new manager, when he comes in, Martin O'Neill, how much of a bounce they get. Forest are good at home, to be fair, but you know, it could go either way. There isn't really much more to say than that, I think.
I think if we look at the table, you've got Leeds at the top, rightly so, and then you've got Sheffield United, Norwich, West Brom, Middlesbrough, and Derby. So they're the teams that are sort of occupying the last playoff spaces. What can you see? Because you've got a lot of teams outside the playoffs. Derby, Middlesbrough in the playoffs. Derby, Birmingham, Forest, Hull. There's a lot of teams, so you can't say that the season's, you can call who's going to make the playoffs because it's anyone's game, really. It's all to play for in the second half.
Yeah, it's such a cliche, but anyone can beat anyone in that league, and it's so inconsistent. So, if you're looking down to 13th, 14th place, you probably don't even give up on playoffs yet. You can get a run of games, 3-4 wins in the bounce, and you'll be right up there like Bristol City have in their run of form.
Absolutely. And you can only admire what Lee Johnson's done at Bristol City. The finance and what the infrastructure of the club isn't exactly Premier League's quality yet, is it? I know they've made loads of redevelopments to Ashton Gate, but the money and stuff is nowhere near some of the likes of Leeds United, West Brom, Sheffield United, even Norwich you could add into that one. So you have to say hats off to Lee Johnson for what an incredible job he's done, because they lost a lot of players in the summer and people thinking, could this be, one season wonder for Lee Johnson? Are they going to be struggling? But to be fair to him, he's got them playing some great stuff. Yeah. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I think both sides will be pretty confident going into the game, but it's tough to call. But I think Forest, new manager bounce maybe, but both sides are evenly matched and it's going to be tough to split them apart. Maybe a draw. Yeah.
So a draw you're going to go for?
Yeah, I'll go for a 1-1 draw. Yeah.
1-1 draw. Lewis?
2-1 Forest. I'll edge it, I think.
2-1 Forest. I'm going to go for 1-0 Bristol City.
Ooh, okay,
snatching away a win. A late goal. A late goal. Okay, now going on from the Championship down to League One, we have then got the fixture between Luton Town and Peterborough. This is obviously an interesting one because we've just touched upon Luton very shortly there with Stoke. Obviously Nathan Jones has gone there. So for Luton Town, they're riding high in the League One. They are second. They obviously got to close in on that gap on Portsmouth. Yeah. Going forward, is this a good or a bad thing that they've lost their manager? Because you could say it's a bad thing, as in you don't want the wheels to fall off. But then, if arguably a better manager comes in, great for them.
I think like he's done such a good job, Jones at Luton. I think they went up last year as champions. Now they're in second, and their home form's been a big thing for them. But I think it's a bad thing, but it will show how much character the players have now to see if they can really kick on and go up, or whether it was just he's a very good manager.
One thing you got to bear into consideration there, looking at the games they've played 27 matches. They've won 15, lost 4, and drawn 8. That's quite a lot of games that they've drawn. So maybe in the second half of the season they'll be looking to turn some of those draws into wins. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think they've got one of the best home records in the league. So it's definitely away from home. They'll be targeting games, but it'll be a really tough test on tomorrow against Peterborough. They're sitting in 6th, and they'll be looking at Luton losing a manager and saying, well, why can't we catch them in second? Why can't we get that automatic place? Absolutely. Tom, give us your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite a good game. Luton obviously score a lot of goals. They've scored 50 in the league so far this season, more than anyone else. Peterborough, on the other hand, are only 6 points behind Luton, so they'll be looking to close the gap, even though they are away. So, but even Luton are 4 behind Portsmouth at the top of the table, so they'll be hoping Portsmouth can slip up when they play Oxford as well. So yeah, I'm expecting an interesting game.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very tight as well. It's similar to the Championship. You've got Portsmouth on the top on 57 points. And then you've got, up and down, even down to 12th, you've got Southend on 35 points. So obviously there's a big gap there between the top. But in and around that, you've got teams on 45, 39, 38, 5 teams on 35 points, which is completely ridiculous. You never see that. So yeah, similar to Championship. I'm sure it's all to play for. Lewis, score predictions for this one?
Well, Luton, their first game without Jones did well last week. They got 1-1 draw at Sunderland, but I think it might be a bit too much. I think going to have Peterborough 2-1. Fair
enough, Tom.
I'm going to go for Luton 2-0.
I'm going to go for Luton 1-0 for the benefit of the doubt. Okay, now we're going to be moving on to our local angle of Parklife Sport. Our two teams, Cheltenham Town and Forest Green Rovers. We're going to start off with Forest Green Rovers. They are host Bury Town in League 2. Lewis, we'll start with you.
Mm-hmm.
Forest Green is 7th, okay, and Bury is 2nd. What can we expect from this one?
I think it'll be a really good game. Two attacking teams. Mark Cooper's said before the game how much he's targeting, improving their home form. They've conceded a lot of sloppy goals at home and probably can turn some of them games them draws into wins. But they'll be looking at this thinking, win it, especially with the run of form they've got coming up, their run of games. But yeah, absolutely.
They can definitely go into this with a positive mindset, saying this is a very winnable game. Although Bury are 2nd and they're doing really well, hot on the tails of Lincoln City, but definitely a very winnable game. Yeah. Tom, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a good game. Two teams in great form. Forest Green got 11 points out of the last 5. Bury got 10 out of the last 5. So I think you can expect to see a good game, and two teams looking to play on the front foot and get a positive result, because it could be massive for both sides of the season if they can get 3 points.
Moving on from the match, I want to talk sort of a little bit outside of the footballing spectrum with Forest Green Rovers. Christian Deutsch is obviously back at the club now, after his transfer with Bolton fell through. What do you make of that, Tom?
I think it's a tough one to take, but he obviously wanted to move to Bolton, but I think he's just got to look to get back to Forest Green and working hard and getting back into form and helping them get promoted, and maybe even be playing Bolton next year.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because you listen to Mark Cooper all throughout the first half of the season. He's been going, we need a replacement, we need to score more goals. I've been looking really hard to try and find one. Ironically, the player that he lost that they loved so much is back now. So how much of a boost can he be going forward?
Yeah, it's a massive boost, especially the games coming thick and fast now. Towards the end of the season, you got a lot of Tuesday night, Wednesday night games, and obviously Forest Green, I think, have got a few games in hand on the other teams. So yeah, having him back to full fitness, full speed could be massive for them moving forward.
Definitely. Lewis, what do you make of it all? Because is this a chance now for them to try and keep hold of Christian Deutsch firmly and cement him down? Or is it like a case of he's just getting back to fitness and next season he's going to probably move on again to a higher club?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts, because he'll obviously be quite devastated about what happened at Bolton. But Bolton, they've got their financial problems and they haven't been paying their players' wages. So it'll be interesting to see his character to come back into Forest Green's team. But it's a massive boost for them, definitely. And they'll be hoping to, be able to say to him next season, well, we've got League One football, so why don't you stay with us? So for the long term for him, it might be a good thing.
Definitely. But the money though that they could have got was massive, because obviously it was a loan move and then it would have been made into a permanent. So the actual money that they would have got wouldn't have been that much. So they kind of have suffered a little bit in the first half. So
yeah, I guess so. But then now they've got a player that's worth that, so they can still sell him. They've still got an asset, and they've got a player that can easily take them up now as
definitely.
Well.
So you think that now with Christian Deutsch, it's a good thing, and they can definitely go up?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they wouldn't have. You want to keep your best players, and they've managed to get one back now, so they've saved you signing another striker, I guess.
Very true. Tom, would you agree with that? What Lewis has said?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, it's important to have him back, and they've been doing well lately, but goals haven't necessarily been flying in. So yeah, having him back could be massive and help them go forward, I think. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, moving just down the road, Cheltenham versus Carlisle. Cheltenham have a really long trip up to Carlisle. It's their longest of the season. They're training with Burnley this afternoon. As we went down to, myself and Lewis went down to the training ground yesterday. We spoke to Michael Duff and their new signing, Charlie Raglan. Lewis, because obviously you were there yesterday. I'll go to you first. What can we expect from this one? Because obviously Cheltenham are doing okay, but Michael Duff said in his press conference yesterday he aims to be the best of the bottom six. What can you make of his comments?
Yeah, I think that's it for Cheltenham. They've got to try and stay up, and I know they're especially with Macclesfield picking up points with Sol Campbell down there. I think Notts County.
Andy Cole. I think Andy Cole's there.
Yeah, he's gone in. Yeah, I've seen that as well. But so Macclesfield, you see them picking up points, but I know Cheltenham are playing them next week as well. So I think Cheltenham have got some huge games coming up. This one, I think it's going to be a bridge too far for them. It's a real tough trip to Carlisle. They're in 6th, playing really well at the minute, scoring lots of goals. They've won 7 of the last 8, I think, 4 at home. So I think they'll probably try and go get a point tomorrow and then target them home games coming on later in the season.
Absolutely. Tom, they brought in Charlie Raglan yesterday. What do you think of that move? Because obviously they conceded 3 goals against Tranmere at home at the weekend. They've had quite a dodgy, leaky defence so far this season. Can he be the man that can sort of tighten up that defence?
Yeah, I think so. They've obviously got Will Ball at the back, quite a consistent player, plays pretty much every week, and he's been captain at times. I think having him alongside the new signing could be massive. And yeah, Carlisle have scored the most of the league, so it's going to be a tough test from the first game. But yeah, I think longer term he'd be helped to keep them safe in division and help them stop conceding so many goals.
Absolutely. So we're going to go on to some score predictions now for this one. This is obviously not a dead rubber match but would you say it's sort of take anything they can get from this one?
Yeah. I think if they get a point, they'll be very happy with that to come back to down south with that. But I can't see past Carlisle, unfortunately, for Cheltenham. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 home win.
3-0 home win. Tom?
Yeah, I think it'll be tough at Cheltenham, tough afternoon. I think Carlisle will score plenty of goals. I'm going for a 2-0 Carlisle win.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to go for a 2-0 as well. I think Cheltenham will do okay, but I think inevitably time will tell with that one. Okay, that's all we have time for on the Parklife Sport Football League podcast. I've been your host, Bill Ledbury, joined by Lewis and Tom.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks, guys, and we'll see you very shortly. Bye.
Bye.